Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jacinta. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to cut and sew this flare backless Ankara crisscross dress. If it's what you love to learn, kindly watch till the end. And if you're yet to subscribe, please hit on the subscribe button below and turn on your notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. So without wasting much time, let's get right into the tutorial. These are the fabrics I'll be using for this tutorial. I have 4.5 yards of Ankara and 1 yard of crepe fabric here. Starting off with the pattern, from the tip of my pattern paper, I'll come downwards by 1 inch, make a mark there and square across, and I'll label that shoulder. Placing my tape on the shoulder, I'm going to mark downwards to the bust line I'm working with, and I'm also going to mark the half length I'm working with, which is 10 and 16 inches. I'll make mark there and square across, and I'm going to label the lines bust and half length. On the shoulder line, I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches, and on that point I'll come downwards by 1.5 for shoulder slope, and still on the shoulder line I'm going to come inwards by 3 inches for the neck width. So guys, I know you'll be wondering why I'm including a shoulder slope and armhole when the dress does not have all that. I'm doing this so that you guys will not get confused. I want to draw a basic pattern that we are all familiar with before making any changes. I've connected the shoulder slant. What I'm going to do now is to mark my armhole level. So I placed my tape on the shoulder slope and I marked 7.5 inches downwards. I'm going to connect with a straight line. Then on the point where the armhole level ended, I'm going to extend the line outwards this way, and this becomes my chest line. Placing my tape on the shoulder line, I'm going to mark 3 inches downwards for the neck depth. I'll mark 3.5 inches downwards from that 3 inches I already marked. Now this 3.5 inches I marked now is where the plain fabric is going to be. That is the width of the plain fabric, the wideness of the plain fabric. So the plain fabric I'm combining it with is going to start from the 3 inches neck width I marked, and it is going to end on the 3.5 inches I just marked. What I'm going to do next is to mark quarter of my bust circumference on the chest line and on the bust line. So I'm dividing the bust circumference I'm working with by 4, and I'm going to mark whatever it gave me on the bust line and on the chest line. I'm also adding 1 inch sewing allowance on both lines. On the half length as well, I'm going to mark quarter of my waist circumference and add sewing allowance of 1 inch. After which I'll connect the measurement with my ruler. On the bust line, I'll come upwards by 1 inch and make a mark there. And I'm going to connect from the 3 inches neck depth to the 1 inch I came upwards by from the bust this way. Remember, we marked 3.5 inches downwards from the neck depth. I'm also going to mark 3.5 inches downwards from this 1 inch because the plain fabric is going to be the same width all through. So I've marked 3.5 inches here. I'm going to connect it to the 3.5 inches I marked on the center front. What I'm going to do now is to take that. If you ever leave yours this way without taking that, it will gape on the armhole area. On the waistline, I'll come in by 4 inches, which is half of the bust span I'm working with. So I'll mark 4 inches on the waistline. Then on this line where the plain fabric will be, we are going to mark 1 inch and connect that 4 inches you marked on the waistline to that 1 inch, like in a V shape. To know the exact place you're going to mark that 1 inch on this line, you can divide this line by 2. Then you mark your 1 inch and connect it in a V shape to the 4 inches you marked on the waistline. So I'm just going to cut out this pattern paper now so I can have more space on my table and to easily eliminate the darts. To close the dart, I'm going to slash open one of the dart lines, close it this way and hold it down with my masking tape. I'm also going to reconnect the line. I'm going to add ½ inch at the half length for joining of this upper part to the flare part. Now this dress does not need half length, but I had to because I'm working with Ankara and I'm going to add lining to this upper part, my client requested for lining. She wanted me to add lining to the upper part. You know how Ankara can be where you don't add lining to it. So that was why I had to make this dress to have half length. Although I later found out that it can actually have lining without it having half length, but when I discovered, it was too late. But if you want me to make a tutorial on how to make this dress with lining and no half length, let me know in the comment section, because the style is not meant to have half length, and it actually comes out more beautiful when it does not have half length. So let me know in the comments if you want me to make a tutorial on how to add lining without it having half length. So I've added the half inch. I'll go ahead now and cut it out. While cutting this out, do well to label it properly. If you don't, you're going to be confused. You won't know where the center front and the side front is, especially this plain fabric one. Use your pencil or your marker or chalk or whatever you're using to mark to indicate where the upper part of this plain fabric is, the center front, the side front, where you're going to join to the Ankara. Indicate it very well so that you won't be confused when joining. After labeling, I'm going to cut it out. I was done with the front part. I'm going to cut the back part now. To cut the back, I'm going to get my pattern paper and place the front pattern on it. I'll fold in the half inch because the back will not have any joining. I use my pin to hold it together. I'm going to make a mark at where the front side stop, because I'm going to be joining it I'm going to be joining the front and back side to side, and it has to be equal at the front and back sides. On that point where I marked, I'm going to come outwards by 2 inches because I'm going to be adding elastic to the upper part of the back piece. I'll connect the 2 inches downwards like this. I'm going to fold the front pattern this way and make a mark at the other end. Now, if you want your back to have a curve, on the center back, you're going to come downwards by 1 inch or 1.5 inch, or depending on how deep you want the back to be. Then you're going from that 1 inch, you're going to connect it to the side like this. So I just made mine to have a slight curve. After connecting it, I'm going to come upwards by 1.5 inch like this. Now this 1.5 inch is for the elastic that we're going to be adding. You know, you fold it before adding elastic, so this is the folding allowance or the elastic allowance. After which, I'll go ahead and cut it out and also label it. I was done cutting the front and back pattern. As you can see, what I'm going to do now is to cut the full dress on my fabric. I'm gonna ahead to fold my fabric into two, and I'm going to place the front pattern on it. I'll add half inch at the upper part for joining of the plain fabric and go ahead and cut it out. For the front flare part, I'm going to fold my fabric in a triangle form. I was trying to do this on my table, but my table was too small, so I had to go down on the floor. I have folded it. As you can see, I'm going to place the half length on it. You're going to place it where it has the same waist measurements with this flare part, just like the way I did, and you're going to pin it down. I'm going to minus the half length measurement from the full gown length. Placing my tape on the half length, I'm going to mark whatever you gave me. You're going to mark it in a circle form, just like the way you mark a flare skirt or a flare dress. And remember to add the 1.5 inch for folding allowance at the full length. So that is exactly what I'm doing here now. I was done marking. I'm going to cut it out now. I'm also going to cut at the waistline. I was on cutting the front. Now the back, I'm going to fold my fabric into two and place the back pattern piece on it. From the half length also, I'm going to mark the full gown length after minusing the half length measurement. After which, I'll go ahead and cut it out. And like I said, this back will not have joining. I was done cutting the back. What I'm going to do now is to cut the plain fabric. So I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two and place my pattern on it, as you can see. As you can see, I placed the pattern on the center. There is space on both sides of the pattern. The space on both sides has to be equal. So depending on how long you want the ropes to be, mine was 35 inches on both sides. So go ahead and input your desired length. You're going to connect from the pattern paper to the length that you marked. So go ahead and extend this 3.5 inches on the pattern paper to your desired length on both sides. I'm so sorry that the chalk are not showing. What you're going to do is to extend this 3.5 inches on the pattern paper to your desired length on both sides. So that is exactly what I'm doing here. I was done with this side. This is me extending the other side. And also while extending it, you're going to make it slanted. It's not going to be straight. You see the way this side is pointing upwards. That is how your line is also going, your extension is also going to point upwards. Don't make it straight. I was done extending both sides. Now I'm cutting it out, and while cutting it out, I'm adding 1/2 inch on both the upper part and the lower parts. This 1/2 inch is sewing allowance, so go ahead and add 1/2 inch on the upper part and on the lower part. And also I'm going to be cutting two of these. So after cutting this first one out, I'll fold my fabric into two and place this one on it and cut exactly the same measurement. I was done cutting the first one. I folded my fabric into two, placed the first one on it, and I'm going to cut the second one. I was done cutting the plain fabric. I'm going to cut the lining for the upper front. My flare was not complete at the down part, so I'm going to use piece of the fabric I have left to complete it. What I'm going to do now is to join the lining and the main fabric together. I'll place it together this way and sew it on all sides. I was done joining the fabric and the lining together, and I've also completed my flare. So what I'm going to do now is to join the half length to this flare at the waistline using 1/2 inch. I was done joining the upper part to the flare, as you can see. What I'm going to do now is to fold the upper part of the back piece. I'm going to fold the upper part of the back piece. We are going to be inserting the elastic. So we added the 1.5 inch. I'm going to mark that 1.5 inch and I'll fold it. I'm using this 1/2 inch elastic. I'm going to cut out 13 inches. I'll also mark 1 inch for the joining of front and back, and I'm marking this on both sides. Now I'm going to use my safety pin to insert the elastic and stitch it on that 1 inch on both sides. The elastic will stop on that 1 inch I marked. I was done with that. What I'm going to do now is to join the front and back piece together. Holding it front facing front, I'm going to pin the front and the back side together. When I was drafting, I told you that the sides are going to be equal. So you're going to hold it from where the front side started from and where the back side started from. So this is exactly what I am doing. What you're going to do is you're going to leave 1/2 inch on the front side you're going to leave half inch. This half inch is for joining of the plain fabric. That was the half inch you added for the joining of the plain fabric. If you watch closely, you will see that where I'm holding is where the two sides started from. So I'll join it from that place to the full length using 1 inch. For the plain fabric, I'm going to mark a notch where I'm going to attach to the Ankara fabric. And where I'll be attaching to the Ankara fabric is where this pattern paper is now, from the center to the side. So I'm notching it to know where exactly it started from and where it ended before removing the pattern paper. Where you're going to notch is the down part, not the upper part. The upper part is going to be closed. So I'm going to close from this end to the upper part to the other end, and I'm going to stop at where the paper is at the down part. The only place that will be open is where I will attach to the Ankara fabric, and that is the down part of where the pattern paper is. Every other side is going to be closed. So watch closely and see how I'm going to do this. So I was done with the first one. This is me sewing the second one. Hope you guys understand what I did. If you don't understand, let me know in the comment section so that I can make a separate tutorial on how to go about this. I was done sewing the two, and this is it. What I'm going to do now is to turn to the right side and attach it to the dress. I was done turning, as you can see, and this is the only place open where I'll be attaching to the Ankara fabric. So this is the center front of the plain fabric. I'm going to attach it to the center front of my Ankara fabric using half inch. Remember, I told you to indicate the center front and the side front so you won't be confused. Or you can leave the pattern paper since you've labeled it till you want to join. That was what I did. And also the notching is very important so they can easily turn it and attach it easily as well. This is me attaching the second plain fabric after turning it, and that will be all for the cutting and sewing of this dress. If you find this video helpful and you've learned something new, please give me a thumbs up, hit on that subscribe button, and do not forget to turn on your notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in my next tutorial.